Hello class, and welcome to This Week in Neuroscience. This week we will be exploring the limbic system and emotions. Now, you've probably heard of Star Trek and probably heard of what the race of Vulcans are. They are creatures that have devoted themselves to pure logic and the control of emotion. And that's probably as close an analogy as you will get to Roger. Spock was a Vulcan, Tuvok was a Vulcan, and Roger functions as a Vulcan. But Roger isn't Vulcan, Roger is human. And in his case, he's a neurological patient with bilateral brain damage encompassing substantial portions of what we call the limbic system. Now, Roger has been studied for many years because in the early 1980s, he experienced an episode of herpes simplex encephalitis, where it's an infection that caused his brain to swell, and that swelling caused damage. Extensive damage, destroying the neural tissue bilaterally to the core of the limbic system, as well as paralimbic regions including the hippocampus, the amygdala, the parahippocampal gyrus, the temporal poles, orbital frontal cortex, basal forebrain, anterior cingulate cortex, and insular cortex. Now, the right hemisphere is more extensively affected than the left, although the lesions are largely bilateral. And despite the magnitude of his brain damage, Roger has normal, or like a Vulcan, above average intelligence. He has average attention span. He has good working memory and executive functioning skills. He has good speech skills and language abilities. In fact, there is no obvious deficits apart from a dense global amnesia that Roger suffers from. And yet, because of the damage to the critical parts of his limbic system, he has a very difficult time processing emotion. In terms of basic emotion recognition, Roger shows a specific impairment in recognizing things like anger. So you can explode in front of him in anger, and he will have a very difficult time recognizing it. Somewhat surprisingly, however, Roger does not demonstrate significant impairment for emotions such as fear or disgust, despite having a significant amount of damage to his amygdala, which process those emotional expressions. In conversation, Roger is often animated in speech, in gestures, and oftentimes he laughs. And so you would think that things are fine. In fact, Roger readily displays positive emotions like happiness, amusement, interest, excitement. And it's rare that he ever displays emotion. However, on occasion, Roger will have short bouts of extreme anger. And these are usually in situations where he feels that his independence is being threatened in some way or hindered in some way. However, the anger very quickly dissipates after the trigger, and in general, Roger appears to experience little, if any, negative emotion. Now, the other significant thing is that he experiences this extreme severity in his amnesia, longer-term amnesia, and yet he's able to function the way that he does. So overall, Roger is essentially a Vulcan. Someone that has a very difficult time recognizing emotion, can appear to have emotion, but does not process emotion the way we would normally consider emotions to be processed, simply because of the massive amount of damage to his limbic system. And yet, he appears to function very well in day-to-day life. I hope you enjoy this week. You take care. Bye-bye.